Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode on ABAP on cloud training. In the last session, we talked about how to create our managed and unmanaged scenario using ABAP on cloud. In today's episode, we will go ahead and discuss about Web API. This was most of you have asked me the question, Anubhav, how can we consume our S4 HANA APIs or S4 HANA data as part of our ABAP on cloud system, point one. And the point two is, can I then also expose data web API out of the cloud from the ABAP on cloud system? So in our scenario, we will actually do both things in one single scenario where I will be consuming the OData service or a web API from S4 system, and then we will be exposing this as part of ABAP on cloud system outside. So let's understand the scenario what we will be taking for the web API. So I'll switch back to the presentation. And what we want to now achieve is, let's imagine you have your S4 HANA system in your company. So this is your SAP S4 HANA system. And if it can be an on-premise or it could be cloud, doesn't matter. S4 on a cloud or S4 on a on-premise, doesn't matter for us because our scenario is going to work for both the cases. And there is an API, so-called an OData service, which is already present in this S4 system. You might have built it with my knowledge of SAP UI5 course as a custom OData service, or it may be a standard OData service which SAP have provided to your company. So essentially there's an OData service, we call it as an API. So any OData service generically is known as API. So this is one API, and this API then have some DPC extension class, MPC extension class, or some or the other business logic, and just selecting or reading the data from the database of S4 HANA tenant. So this is the current setup. We have it. Just imagine, okay? Step number one. Now, this data of S4 system, so which is stored in the HANA DB here, I want this data via this web API to be consumed in my ABAP on cloud system. I want to use this API. I want to call this API and I want to use this as part of my ABAP on cloud system. So I will first show you this API, which is already present. So I'll just quickly connect to our SAP S4HANA system. So let me just do that. So go to SAP logo on and connect to our S4 system to show you one ready to use API which we had already which is delivered by SAP to every system. So just go to the system, and here I'll show you the API is part of my main service transaction code. Yeah, so here we can see all the list of APIs. So it's called EPM developer scenario. It's a free API SAP provides you. You can activate this. The name of this is a standard API which is present in all S4 HANA system. It's called EPM developer scenario. And now there you go. And you can see it's already active and it's giving me some data. Just call this API and you will see it will give me sales order data. Yeah. So it has got sales order items, it has got customers, products, sales order header, product categories, all lot of stuff is there in this API. It's a built-in API in S4 system. And I will use sales order headers to just show you some sales order records pumping up over here. Just come here, put this header, just put JSON. And now when I run, I get an error, not implemented in get entity set not implemented. Okay, this API then we can't use. Maybe I'll use another one which I had implemented already. Just go in there and now just want to search for my API. Maybe this one. and I call it in the browser. This is another API. This one is the custom one I've implemented, and you can see it has got a product set. And then I'll just go and say JSON, and now you'll see it will show me some product data. Cool. So this is one API. Imagine in your company, your S4HANA system, there's some API, there's some OData service, and now you want to use this OData service as part of a ABAP on cloud. How do you call this API from S4 system? Many a times it may so happen that you have a migration done to S4 recently, and now they want this data to be fetched into the cloud system. They want to use this data in the cloud system, and basically they want to expose the data out of the cloud system. So how can we achieve that? But that's not just the only thing. They want to also mix this data together with other data, which I will also show you. So now I'll just store this name of this API first of all into our PPT. So let's imagine this is the API name. So I'll just keep it here for reference. Yes, good, nice. Keep it. This is the API we have, we will be using. Now, this data, this API is giving a product data. I want to use this API as part of my ABAP on cloud system. And what I want to do is from SAP Cloud Platform, I want to create something called a proxy artifact. And this proxy artifact will represent this OData service over here. So remember, if you are, let's say you have an appointment somewhere, maybe you have to attend some family function or a marriage, and you yourself cannot be present there. But if you are not going there, then those relatives are not going to feel good about you. They will be angry on you. So in that case, you will send your proxy, right? You will send somebody else who represents your family from your end, so that everybody will be happy. So that's what exactly happening. We cannot take all of this business logic, this data and everything over here to a ABAP on cloud. Not possible. Of course, you have to, SAP is given you an API. You can call this any point, given point of time, and use it, right? So what we do is we don't move everything here. Rather, we create here a proxy artifact, which is a representative of this guy. Okay, of this guy. So this is called proxy artifact. So we'll be creating a proxy artifact. You'll see that in the system when I will create them. So it's basically an artifact which is a proxy of this OData. But at the same time, it's extremely important to have a secure communication between these two guys. That's also another part of DevOps, which is extremely important. So not just having an API, you will not be able to do everything. Rather, you also need to have a secure connection between these two giants. Okay, that's extremely important. So we need some kind of security, some kind of connection, secure connection between these two people. So this security, this secure connection will be done by two different things, which I will also be explaining. So watch out, step by step we are doing. There are so many entities, so many artifacts, so many different things which are happening here, which we would need to make sure and manage it properly. Otherwise, we'll have a problem. So the first thing first is this guy. Okay. So here, this guy is your API must exist and active in the system. The second thing is once this API is available, you need to also make sure that you create a proxy object. This is step number 2. So step number 1, API. Step number 2, proxy object. Step number 3, you need to maintain prerequisites to have a secure connection to S4 system. So how do you connect to your S4 system? There has to be security. There has to be some communication which needs to be done. And for that, there are 2 steps. 3.1, you need to maintain a destination in cloud platform account to be able to identify the provisioning system. And step number 3.2, you have to also maintain a communication scenario, a communication arrangement, so that your cloud system can talk to the remote system. Now, by the way, just for additional information in technical terms, what are all these systems called? The system which you are using, which is your S4 system, your existing functionality system, OP system or cloud system, no matter what, this system which is exposing this API is known as provisioning system. So next time when I say provisioning system, your immediate attention should go to S4 HANA. Okay, this is called provisioning system, and this system is called SAP Cloud Platform. Of course, this is the consumer system, or this is the system which is consuming. This is called consuming tenant or consumer tenant. So these are all the names of the systems which are technically used in this world. So that's the step number 3. We have to maintain this communication arrangement. With that, now you will be able to make a call to this guy. But hey, I want to make it more interesting. So what I want is, I don't want to just expose this data. Rather, I want to take this data which is coming from this API, and I want to mix this data together with my custom data. So I will also have additionally another database table created in ABAP on Cloud, which we been doing in the past, but again I will do it here. So we'll also have a database table here which is created in ABAP on Cloud system. I will be doing that. I will be creating a new database table in ABAP on Cloud system. And this ABAP on Cloud system data also I want to take it from, I want to also take it, and I want to mix this data with this data. Both of them I want to mix it, and this mix will happen using something called a custom query. Okay. It happens using something called custom entity. Okay, custom CDS entity we will be creating. What does the role of custom CDS entity? It is to create a mix of data coming from API and the data which is available in your ABAP on Cloud system natively. So this is the scenario which we will be taking. It will cover most of the flavors which you can imagine in your company when they want to expose some data of S4 HANA system outside from the cloud. This part will cover. The phase 1 will cover, and the phase 2 maybe you want to mix this data with this data together. So there's some local DB here, some tiny DB which also storing some data, and I want to mix both of these data together, and that's what is called my custom entity. And this custom entity will become finally a web API. Okay, this will become a web API, and user will not see the difference. The consumer of this web API will not see a difference whether it is coming from purely ABAP on cloud or whether it is coming from the backend S4 HANA system. So that's our scenario. So ultimately we'll be exposing this API over here, and this API is nothing but your we call it as a web API, and this web API will actually do everything. Okay, just come here. So this web API is a combination of data coming from S4 and a data which is stored locally in ABAP on cloud within a database table. So that's what will be our next step. So we will also creating step number 4, where we will be creating a database table locally in ABAP on cloud system. We've done it in the past. There's nothing rocket science in there. Just use the entity notation to create the same. We will do that. Step number 4. Step number 5, we have to implement a custom query implementation. That's a step number 5. Okay, this is custom query implementation. So basically custom entity and custom query. So we will have custom entity 5.1, which represent mixture, and then we have to create custom query. So these are all the 2 steps which we have to follow. Okay, custom query and custom entity. Now just select it here, just change the color so that makes it easy for you to remember these steps. Yeah, everybody, are you with me? The scenario is clear, everyone? So you see we have a lot of things to do. Are you clear with the real-time scenario we will be using? So many of you were asking how to consume S4 data in ABAP on cloud. We'll do that. How to consume this custom data and create a mix and create an ABAP, create a ABAP API in the cloud, web API in the cloud. That is also we are seeing. This will also cover proxy artifact concept. We'll cover the custom entity concept. So all these things are will be covered as part of this. So let's go ahead and see that then. So let's first talk about steps, what steps we will be taking. So the very first step is I need to take a metadata, a snapshot of this OData service because I need to create a proxy artifact. So I'll just come here and I will say dollar $metadata, enter, and this shows me the metadata of my service. I just click on save button and I just say metadata.xml on my desktop. I just downloaded the metadata of this OData service so that I can go ahead and create a proxy artifact. So step number one, save your XML, uh, save your XML of the service, the metadata XML. So I'll be keep writing these steps to implement this whole scenario. So steps to implement the web API. Now guys, remember we will be completing this scenario in 2 sessions. Today we will complete the coding and the basic stuff, and then tomorrow we will be adding more stuff to it. Okay. Now what is exactly the functionality we want? The functionality is there is a price which is coming from the product here, and I want to store the discounted price in the database table for these products. Okay. So the discounted price comes from the database and the actual price comes from the actual price, the absolute price comes from the API in S4 HANA system, and the discounts will come from this local database table in ABAP on cloud. And then we have a calculated price, which is the actual price minus discounts, and that will be also exposed as part of your custom entity together with a timestamp of when was the last time record was changed. So all these things we will be exposing it out as part of our custom entity together. It's a mix. So user, end user, the consumer of your web API will never know whether which system this data is coming from. They will look it at as one chunk of data together. So step number one, download the metadata XML of the web API of the OData service. Step number one. Let me just go back and see that. So I go back here and just close everything. And we will create first of all something called service consumption model. So we downloaded this metadata. Step one complete. Step two is create a service consumption model. So now I come here to our package. Let me open ZATS00. This is our package. I will right click and I say new, other, and I will say service consumption model. You see, business service consumption model. This is the one which is mandatory for you to create. I was telling you about the proxy artifact. So this is your proxy artifact which will represent your actual API, actual S4 HANA OData service in your ABAP on cloud system. So we are at step number two. We are creating the proxy artifact, step number two. So I select service consumption model under business service, and I will create this. So say ZATS00 product proxy service consumption proxy for product. Easy. And now it asks me to enter the metadata file of my OData. Very good. Say browse. Go to my desktop and pick the metadata from the browser. Sorry, from the local computer. You can see I've selected it from my computer. And I say next button. And it's reading this metadata and it says, oh my god, semantics for field currency not found. Why it's giving me this error? Semantics for field currency is not found. There's a problem with our OData service. So this currency code semantics it's saying not found. So I think there's an issue with this OData. Maybe I'll just check some other OData which we can use probably. which is also maybe functioning. So this one is not helping. EPM, 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 EPM. Let me use the one which we can really leverage. Okay, just try this one, EPM OData test service. Okay, and it has also sales order header data set. I'll just try if this gives me some data. We'll use sales order scenario in that case. Yes, it works. So we've got some sales orders here in the system. Maybe we'll use this one actually. So let me just store the metadata. So we can also calculate sales order discount. Discount will be stored in a ABAP on cloud system. Just overwrite and now go back. So we'll be using this one, guys. ZEPM model OData test SRV. This is our service name I'll be using. I'll just change this service name here. That's the one we'll be using. Okay. So now come back. Step number 2, create a proxy artifact. With the name. Let's go back. I just say SO proxy, sales order proxy. This is the name I'm creating. So remember these artifact names. There are too many artifacts we are creating. And and consume downloaded metadata. Just put that. Say next. Duplicate entry SO header data set. Why it's giving this error again? Just try again. New service consumption model. Duplicate entry SO header data set. It's not able to get the right mapping, guys. Maybe I will use the one which I was telling at the beginning. Then I'm sorry, I have to go back and maybe use this guy if this allows. Use this metadata maybe. Just save this. Just go back. Browse. And say next. Yes, it works. So your OData has to be properly parsed. If there's a problem in the metadata, system won't allow you, but in this case now it's allowing me. And now it's asking which is the entity set you want to expose. So I will say, hey, I just want to expose the sales order headers. I don't want other entity sets to be part of my my consumption, because our scenario is that we want to only use here the one second. I'll just do Control Z. We want to only use sales order header because we want to calculate discount on each of the sales order. That's the main reason why we are only using one of them. So let me also put the service name again, so that you don't get confused. This is the service we are using. I'm sure this service is there in all of your systems. You guys can also use this without any problem. And I just choose here sales order headers. I say next. And you see it's going to create these things for us automatically. Look at here. It's going to create these many things automatically for us. I say next. Finish. So now it's creating a service artifact called service consumption model. And this is basically your proxy to that OData service which SAP has exposed from S4 system in your consuming system. Okay, so this is in the consuming system representation of provisioning system API which you can use. Now, what happens when you do this? What happens behind the scene when you do this? I'll just keep this name over there. So when we create proxy object, system will create following things. The first thing which system will be creating is called a CDS abstract entity. Okay, let me show you. Go back, and if you come here, you would observe that system would have created a CDS entity. Let me show you that. So if you come down, you see Z sales order header and some GUID D7FD1150, something of this sort. System has created this abstract entity. Okay, this is the first thing which system has created. You see, it's called abstract entity. This is basically nothing but used for data type import export parameters. Okay, this abstract entity, just like a data type, table type in ABAP, or like a structure. That's why it's called abstract. It is not actual CDS view which can talk to any database table and fetch data. This is mainly for the purpose of data type representation, import export parameters. If you need, you can use this abstract entity for that purpose. So that this is the first thing which system creates for data type purpose. System will also create one behavior definition for the same. So if you go back above, you see one more behavior definition is also created for this particular consumption model, and it's saying that I would allow you to create the sales order using this behavior definition. That's the second thing which system generates automatically for us when we create a proxy artifact. The third thing which it creates is also something called a service definition. It will create, let me just open full content and I'll show you service definition, and you see it will also create something called a service definition. Here you see ZATS 00 sales proxy. That's a third thing which system is creating, which is exposing this abstract entity out. Clear, everybody? What are all the three things which system creates whenever you create a proxy object? So system will now create also, yeah, say next, finish. Yes, it's been added, but it's mandatory to also add a marker interface to this class. So whenever you're creating a implementation class for custom query, it is mandatory that you will go ahead and add here a interface so that this class can be marked as a special class by the system. And this special interface, like you in AMDP, we used to use IF underscore AMDP dot marker.hdb, right? That was the interface we used to use. So similarly here, we also have to use wrap query provider interface as part of this, as part of a marker interface to this class, which is mandatory. Wrap query provider, this is mandatory. If you not do that, this class will not be considered by your custom entity. So this is the step number one, extremely important. And let's implement its method here, which is actually the select method. This method is where you will write your code to select the data from your sources, be it the source as your API from S4 system plus the custom database table, and you will collect this data together and join them, and that's what you will return out of this class. Let me just activate the class first, the wrap query provider class, and now I'll go back and activate our custom entity, and you will see this will also active properly. Superb. Everybody, are you with me? Step by step, line by line, no copy paste of code. We've created a custom entity which is going to expose the data mixture of abstract and custom DB. Basically, combine the fields of ABAP of S4 proxy and our custom table. In next step, what we did, we went ahead and we just maintain the annotation to provide the class name. Okay, maintain the annotation to provide the class name. That's very, very important. You see, we are maintaining this annotation query implemented by class name. Now create the class with marker interface called if underscore wrap query provider. So what will basically happen when somebody execute this custom entity? Okay, when somebody execute this custom entity, this particular entity will expose the data. It will basically call this method of call select, and here whatever code you will write, it will actually do that, return that data out using this query provider. Okay, so now very important, what will you be doing here is step number one. We will be connecting to our S4 system to fetch order data. Now, there is a very dangerous thing in this step. Imagine your S4 HANA system has billion sales order. Will it ever load if I simply call the API of S4 and say, give me all orders? Never. So what do we do in OData in UI5 to avoid loading all records? To avoid loading all records at one go, what do we do? We have to implement pagination. Exactly, we have to do chunk by chunk, so that also is required in this piece of code. We have to extremely be doing that. So the first one is step 1.1 is we need to maintain, create a connection to S4 HANA system, because without connection, how do you call the API of S4? And this connection, the prerequisite, I've already told you guys about a minute ago. There are two prerequisites. The first prerequisite is we must have to have a destination to S4 system in our cloud platform, and second prerequisite is communication scenario needs to be maintained, which I will show you later, maybe in the next class, because still I don't have a productive ABAP on cloud system where I can show you creating a communication scenario. But I will show that probably in the next class. I'm in process of checking out a system which I've got it, but I don't know how to add that system to my Eclipse. So that's something which I'm working upon right now. So that's something we'll see in the next class. The prerequisite will complete in next class, but the other steps will complete in today's class. So 1.1, create a connection to S4 on a system. This is also known as creating an HTTP proxy. Basically, in Fiori, how you call ABAP, how you call S4 service, you use OData model in Fiori, right? So that OData model is the channel which is communicating to your S4 system, to the OData service. Similarly, you need a channel in ABAP to talk to the OData API which is in S4 system. So that channel is called HTTP proxy class. We will create an instance of HTTP proxy, and that also we will modularize in a separate class itself. So I will be creating now a separate class where we'll be instantiating this HTTP proxy class. So once you get this HTTP proxy object, in next step, what you need to do, which is 1.2, here after creating the instance, the object of HTTP class, we need to make sure we handle the code for pagination, because at times this is very risky. If you have billions of records, system will start loading everything and you will become, it will become very difficult for you. Okay, now in the next step we have to just also, after the pagination is done, we have to fire execute API address which system will be creating, and class and method. Okay, so this will be my new API address which system will be creating. This will return your custom entity, and that custom entity will then have all the data which you need, which is a combination of both. I will just activate this. And now it's time to go to our main class and start writing the code there. So I'll just take this class, come back. So all the responsibility of creating the communication to the S4 system is divided to this class. That's how you modularize your code. Makes it so easy for us when we modularize like this. So tomorrow if there's a communication issue, you just have to touch one class, you don't have to touch all the classes. So that's the biggest benefit you get it here with modularization. So now I just come back and create an object over here, first of all, to that OData, and then the remaining code as we have written in the pseudocode already. So let's create an object, hello client proxy. This is the proxy with which we will be communicating to S4 system, my class, and I'll call the method get client proxy. Step number 1 is complete, and then we will create a request object. So data hello read request, and then we'll pass hello client proxy, create resource for entity set. What is my entity set name? My entity set name, I will go back and check again. So this is my entity set name, z order header whatsoever this number is. So that is my entity set name. So step number 2 is complete. Pass my entity set name. Why it's giving me an error? Yeah, okay, that's how you should code. Next step is we need to implement the pagination, which is very important. Otherwise, you will get extremely high performance issues. So you have to make sure that whomsoever is calling this API, they will pass you the pagination. They will pass you 0 to 10 records I want in first chunk, 0 to 10, 0 to 10, like that. And you need to handle that pagination here. So let's get a pagination object, pagination data, ls pagination, like you used to do in ABAP in while creating OData services. So you just use IO request, and I'll say get pagination, and now we'll know what is the status value, what is the value of pagination they want. So ls pagination, what is the value of offset, basically the value of top, how much do they want for top. If it is greater than equals to 0, we have to send this pagination to the requested client. So we just have to use this read request, set skip, is create resource for entity set. Okay, we have to also create a read request here. So create read request, we have to call it actually. Create request for read. We want to read the data, so that's the read request. And now here you will see these methods. So set skip value, and now I just take this pagination and I'll say get me the offset value. So we will skip this value. So this is the skip we are passing to the S4 HANA service. Similarly, we have to also pass the top value and skip value accordingly. So that's the first part. And now we will check if the top value is passed by users. So I'll just say if pagination get page size is passed by them. If the top value is passed, get pagination size. If this page size is not equals to if wrap query paging, page size unlimited, then I will say read request set top value. So this is how I'm safeguarding the performance, because user may not pass you, or the consumer of this API may not pass you the value of top. So in that case, you have to restrict the number of records. Extremely important. So now here set top value, and this one we will set based on whatever user passing to us. Get page size. If it is not unlimited, then we just pass this. Else, on a safe side, I will just pass as 10. Let's imagine somebody calling your API and you calling S4 HANA, and S4 HANA, when you're calling, you simply pass everything. Then in that case, it'll be a big problem. So I just say maybe just give me 15 records. If nobody's passing you the pagination, just give me top 15 records by default. This is how we safeguard performance of our API, which is calling S4 HANA API. Now, once the pagination values are set, it's time to fire the request. Finally, make a call to the OData API of S4 HANA, and it will return you the response. So let's create a response object. Remember, it's request response architecture. So we'll have read request. You can use my code exactly as it is. Copy paste my code. It will work fine for you. This code remains absolutely same no matter what API are you calling for read operation. Okay. Now, then next is we will also probably set the count. So in the read request, if the is data requested, so if user really expecting the data, then we have to do this logic. Only let's say if they are expecting you to respond to the count value, they have not requested data. Sometime in OData service, you can go back, and now here what you can do is you can just put the count value, right? So if I just go here, I'll say SO header data, and I just say slash dollar count. And I didn't really put here the value, I just put the count. So you can see I'm getting the count value. So this is what is extremely important. User is not requesting data, user expecting count value. So if they are only requesting count, then you have to just send count. You don't have to send the whole data. So IO request, if they are expecting is total number of count requested, are they just expecting you to pass the count value? Then you have to respond with the total number of records. And this will get it from the response get count. We're simply passing the response back. Get count. Just pass this get count to the set count, total number of records. So we are just passing the total number of records. But if user requested data for the entity set, in that case, now it's time to write the logic for merging. So we have retrieved the data already. It's time to go to step number 3 here. We have to carry out the merging. But before that, I'll also read the data from my database table. Yeah. So let's go ahead and read the data from our discount table. But I would do all of these steps together, because we may want to read only the data of discount based on the sales order IDs. We don't want to read all records from our discount table. we want to only read the records of discount table based on whatever sales orders are given by S4 HANA. So let's say in the first chunk of report, you have got 15 sales order. Only for those 15 I need discount. So why do I go and read all records from my sales order discount table which is locally present? I should not. Yeah. I should only read for the sales order which is given by S4 system. Due to pagination, it gives me only 15. So only for those 15 I need discount. So why do I call a select star here? It should not be done. Yeah. So now if the data is requested, we have to create three tables, internal tables. Let me create. So first is your table for header data, and I will call it as S4 table. This is the data which we receive from the S4 table. Type standard table of, and then let's put our proxy artifact. This one is the data type. We just put that. The second table will be the table which is going to be custom entity, which is our return, final return. This is our final return. It's of type my custom entity, which is a merge of both the things. And the third table will be your data, which is in the DB in ABAP on cloud, which is of type your database table with ABAP on cloud. So these three tables. So finally, you have to prepare this return table. That's your final table, which is a merge of this plus this. Okay. So now step number one, let's get this business data from the response object. So data API was called by the proxy artifact, and now we are just calling response, sorry, request object. This one response object, this response, and then say get business data. And this data we collect finally into our LS4 table. This is abstract entity which is created. We created a data type now using that, and this will get you all the sales orders which are there in S4 HANA system based on pagination. I'll say if this LTS4 is not initial, we will start a merge. Let's start a merge. So now in the merge process, we will just first of all create our table, which is custom entity. We'll move all the data from the S4 table to the custom entity. Basically, we'll just do return is equals to corresponding hash. And now here we will pass our S4 table. Just please get everything from S4 table, and mapping sales order ID with sales order ID. Now it may be possible that here you may not have this property name is different in your custom entity, though we kept it same, guys. You see sales order ID, and same in the S4 HANA also sales order ID, but sometimes it may mismatch. So you have to just make sure that you just do the correct mapping sales order ID with sales order ID. So this is your first return. So all the data correspondingly we moved from the S4, and now it's time to select the data from discount table. So select star from my discount table, custom discount table. It's this one. Copy that, bring it here into table at the rate my database ABAP on cloud table for all entries in this return table where sales order ID, I think it's order ID in our table. Yeah, order ID is matching with this LT return. Why I keep it LS? It should be LT. Yeah, it's a table. And in this, we have a sales order ID. Based on the sales order ID, get me all the discounts of only those sales orders which are selected from the S4 system. Yeah. So we got them. Escaping of host variable is mandatory as part of new ABAP syntax for select query. Into clause must be at the end. Okay. do that, no problem. Yeah, my query looks good. So we're selecting only the sales orders and their corresponding discounts for this table, and now it's time to loop over these records of custom entity. LT return, just loop over LT return into, anyway I'll do it, don't worry. So this is something background work. So idea is the API should work fine, the API which you are planning to consume, that should work fine, and then rest all the communication arrangement needs to be established with the destination. We already did it today, but tomorrow in the next class, next weekend, we will be also doing the communication scenario. But remember, the communication scenario is only possible in a productive ABAP on cloud system. Ours is a trial, so we cannot maintain communication scenario. I'll also show you where do we do this activity. If you just go back, right click on your ABAP on cloud system and right click and go to properties, and now you will see here this icon, no, you will see something called ABAP development, and you see this URL. Yeah, copy this URL from here and simply go to the browser and paste this URL over here. Now it will take you to something called a dashboard, ABAP on cloud dashboard. In this ABAP on cloud dashboard, there is an option called maintain communication scenario, and this option is not coming in our trial. Okay, so that is the main reason why I'm not able to show you everything here. So you see, we don't get a tile called maintain communication scenario. Okay, but if in your company, if you are using the ABAP on cloud system, you can go and try this URL. You will see a tile called maintain communication scenario. I'll also show you how does it look like. So in a productive ABAP on cloud systems, you will actually see this tile: maintain communication user, communication arrangement, communication system. There's another one called maintain communication scenario. You see, maintain communication scenario, arrangement, systems, extensions, and communication scenarios. You see, display communication. So these styles you will see in a productive system, but since we are using a trial system, we are not able to see these styles. And there's a communication scenario which needs to be configured. If it is configured properly, then only we will be able to have a secure connection to S4 system, and then we will be able to communicate and call, because this communication scenario holds the user for communication. Okay, so if you observe here, we didn't pass any user, and in order to enter inside the S4 system, you need a user, right? You need a communication user. So this is the main reason why we are not able to proceed here at this point of time, which is a prerequisite in order to call this web API and establish a secure connection using this client proxy. That's a main reason. That's a prerequisite. We will be doing that if I can find a productive system by the next class. But coding wise, we are done. At least the read should work fine. And then we will also look at creating an edit option. How can we do edit of data? That also we will be looking at, hopefully, how to edit the discounted price, and then it should give the final calculation. Then the last topic after this will be ABAP Git. We will look at ABAP Git. How does ABAP Git works? Again, I think for that we need a productive system. In the trial, I think it's not available. We'll give you a quick introduction for the same. Time for your questions one by one. Please go ahead with your questions.
Hello, Anubhav. This is Sushant. Have a question. Now, say instead of an ABAP on cloud system, say if I just have a system on the cloud, right, and I'm talking from an S4HANA on-premise system. So in that case, like say, what would be the best approach that you would suggest?
Okay. Do you have experience in Java?
Nope.
Okay, because to build a side-by-side extension in SAP Cloud Platform, there's another approach which is getting so much popularity called S4HANA SDK, which is covered in my S4HANA extension training. I think you have taken that training already, haven't you?
No, I've not taken that.
So that's where I've explained using S4HANA Cloud, using Java programming to consume the S4HANA APIs by building a side-by-side extension. So you may be
No, this is
interested.
just like a cloud system. Not that it's not SAP. It's just like a cloud system, a system which is on the cloud. And now I have an on-premise system, and I want to talk to it.
Okay. So you have basically, I will flip the pyramid like this. You already have this setup. There's a cloud system,
Mhm.
doesn't matter what cloud it is. And on the right side, you
Yes.
have a S4OP system. So basically, you want to make a call from left to right. So in this case, we are making right to left, but you want to do left to right, is it?
Yes, yes. Getting the data. You're exactly correct. You're trying to get the data from the cloud system.
How do you do it from Fiori?
OData?
Exactly. Same thing. You have to have an OData in S4 system. As long as you have OData, you can make a call in the cloud, which is there in the. Is the OData in cloud system or is it an OP system?
Oh, it's on the OP system. OData, the cloud system, it's just like a cloud system. There's no OData on the cloud system.
Okay. So you want to call from cloud system to OP system, is it?
Yes, yes.
We are already
Whatever
doing
data
that
is there
today.
in the cloud, I want to retrieve it to the S4 HANA system.
Whatever data in the cloud, you want to retrieve them that in the S4 system.
Yes.
So in that case, what you have to do, you have to again do the same coding in S4 system what we did today here. You see this coding which we did? We created an HTTP client object.
Hmm.
We have given basically this client object will contain all the connection information of the remote service. And then with the help of this is all ABAP classes. You see, this is all ABAP code. How you can call an OData using ABAP programming. All of this code.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I will also show
Can
you one blog. I will also show you
Mhm.
one blog calling OData using HTTP proxy in ABAP. So basically from Fiori, how you call it, you use OData model. Similarly, there has to be something in ABAP, and ABAP gives you this very powerful CL HTTP client class, which you can use to make a call to OData services. You see, create by destination. So you have to also maintain a SM59 connection actually. You have to go to SM59, create a G type connection of your cloud URL. You have to give that. So all of this is
Mhm.
explained here in this blog actually. You see, he's creating an HTTP client object create by destination, and then he is making a call to the API request by URI get data.
Oh,
Can check this blog. Maybe I'll create a YouTube video on this topic soon. It's a good topic actually. Many people asked.
okay. But can we, instead of OData, can we use like a REST API?
REST
Is it
also you can
possible?
use using same technique. I think he's using REST only. I think he's using REST only. REST also you can use, no problem.
And can we like completely bypass OData? Like bypass OData and just use REST API?
Yes, yes, you can do that. Possible.
Okay, okay. Like say now in this case, whatever you're showing us today, I think you're trying to send information to an ABAP in the cloud. Like say if we are trying to get information from ABAP in the cloud to S4, is that will you be showing us that also?
That also I'll not show that. For that I'll create a YouTube video. So that I will show it in generic way in a YouTube video, which is exactly covered in this blog. I will replicate this blog in a YouTube video. This is what they're doing.
Okay,
In OP system, they are calling some remote API which is somewhere in some cloud. Doesn't matter what cloud it is, be it a S4, be it a BAP, be it whatsoever. They are calling that service in a BAP system, in OP system, using a destination which they maintain in SM59. This I will create a YouTube video for this topic.
okay, okay. Yeah, because I think here they're using OData, but like say if we can use REST API and bypass OData,
We
can
can
you
use
maybe
REST
create a
also, not a problem. Not a problem.
okay,
Mhm.
okay, okay, okay. Last question, like, would you be covering anything of the cloud extension in this course? Because I saw that in your initial PPT, the cloud extension also
This is cloud
that you
extension
will you be
only. See what we are doing actually here. We are
okay.
fetching some data from S4 system. We
Hmm.
have some data in our local system, in our ABAP on cloud local system, which we are reading. So we are building actually an extension of S4 HANA. What is an extension? It's basically an app which is not part of S4 system, which is not deployed in S4 system, which is outside S4 system in SAP Cloud Platform, yet remains integrated with S4 system by calling its API.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we are doing. That's an extension we are building actually. So once this web API is live, we will create a Fiori app on top of this web API, and that will be our extension.
Okay, okay,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions, anyone? All right.
Anubhav, I have one question.
Hmm.
Can we create Fury apps on the processor and approval apps that we created
Yes, of course.
earlier for management?
Of course, we will be doing that. We will be creating finally the Fiori app on those approver and processors because we just did an app preview. App preview we did, but we didn't create app
Correct.
yet. So in the web ID full stack, I will create those apps together with this also, the extension app, and I will deploy them into the cloud, into the Fury Launchpad or cloud portal. We'll do that actually end to end. Now there's a question here: what is the difference between REST API and OData? I would say OData is just an implementation of REST. However, there is a sequence of videos which are planned on my YouTube channel. Hopefully, they will come early next month, which will clearly explain you difference between REST, OData, and SOAP. This is one of the top asked question. What is the difference between SOAP, REST, and OData? So there are sequence of videos planned in that context in on our channel. You can see they're already recorded and they're already complete. And just show you those videos. They are ready to launch. Just keeping them in the queue. You can see they are in the queue already. SOAP versus OData versus REST. These are three sequence of video with practical examples. You can see current status is private. So I've already scheduled them for being live first week or second week of February. So these are all the videos which will be coming on the YouTube. If you're not subscribed on our YouTube channel, please do that and hit the bell icon so you get notified when these videos are available into the YouTube. So there are a lot of YouTube videos coming for these extra questions which you guys keep asking me. I do create YouTube video. It will help everybody actually. Okay. All right. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. Thank you so much. Catch you up tomorrow or catch you up next weekend. Have a nice day. Goodbye. Them out. So there's a question from Pooja. So Pooja is asking Anubhav, scenario that we have done last time. Have you created a tile for FLP as many clips are not showing preview option? So you can tell me how to create tile. It will be helpful. Sure, Pooja. We'll do that in the next class. Okay. We'll do that for sure in the next class. How to create the tile, how to create the app in Web IDE. But if you want to immediately see that, I already have one video where I've shown it actually. You can just go through that video. I'll just show you that video. Just give it to you. You can use the same technique. So that you can actually check. Immediately you can create it by following those steps. There's an ABAP on Cloud playlist actually. That video is in that playlist actually. So ABAP on Cloud playlist. Yes, here it is, 16 video playlist. Just you can check this is this video number 3, creating application, Fury application. This is the video, Pooja. You can check it right away today itself to be able to do the same stuff. Okay. Now there's a question here. Here we are writing various ABAP classes to implement data fetching logic. SAP need SAP test class. Is that a question or a statement? I don't know. Avinash has asked a question or a statement. I have no clue. Is that a question? Would you show demo writing local test classes? No, Sushant, I will not be showing you writing local test classes. But actually, if you observe, we have already done that. Do you remember I have written a class which was calling EML to test our BO when I taught you EML? That's what exactly it is. What you were doing in the EML chapter, you were writing EML to test your business object. But the only thing which we did is we didn't create it as a test class. We didn't right click and choose a test class. So you can just go back, do the same coding by just right clicking and choosing an option called create test class. Okay, so select your CDS and then you have an option there called to create a new test class actually. Okay, where do we see that option? So we typically have an option for our business object. Let me open our business object entity, this one, unmanaged, and just go to the outline view. We want to just see the business object explorer actually, so that we can just control shift. What was the shortcut to see the business object overview? There was one shortcut which I taught you to see the business object overview. Let me just go back and check here. Control. It was Alt Shift W something was there. Alt plus. Yeah, Alt Shift W. I remember. Good. So just go here. Alt Shift W. Relation Explorer. And I can right click here. There's an option actually to see the creating a test class. I don't see that here. I have to check it. I have to check it. So there's an option to create test class, and there you can write all
When
the
we
EML.
open that, Anubhav, when we open any class, then below itself you'll find the option to write a test class for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah,
test
in
class.
this, yeah, here itself.
Mm-hmm. So here you can write the test class actually. So all the code which we have written for EML, what was that code? That was the code to test the business object. If you just go back also, I think it you'll find it in our PPT, how to test the EML. You see, we can use the EML in ABAP to test our BO. So that was exactly the code you got to write as a test class. Okay.
Okay.
All right. With that, it's a wrap, and I will catch you up next weekend. And goodbye.